What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome back to Writer's Life Wednesdays, where we come together to help you make your story matter and make your author dreams come true. Writing the last chapter of your novel can, in some ways, be just as challenging as writing the first chapter. Maybe you're feeling super confident in your story, but you just aren't sure how to end the thing. There are so many ways to end a novel. It can be a bit overwhelming considering the possibilities. Do you need to wrap up all the loose ends, or should you leave room for the reader to imagine what happens next? Should you end with a shocking twist? Or maybe an epilogue? Should you make it a happily ever after, or should you make everyone die? I have read many negative book reviews where the readers actually enjoyed the story as a whole, but they felt like the ending fell flat, or it rushed, or it dragged out too much, and because of that, it ruined the whole book for them. You don't want to get reviews like this when you send your book out into the world. You want your reader to be satisfied with an unforgettable ending that makes them hungry to read more of your work as soon as possible. Which leads us to the big question: how do you write the final chapter? That's what we're exploring in this video. We're going to look at the science of keeping your reader on the edge of their seat until the final page, and I'm going to give you some questions, some prompts to ask yourself so that you can write the most powerful and satisfying ending for your story. Grab a notebook and let's get into this.
Why does your story matter? Good question. What if I told you that there's a science behind every great story? I don't just teach you how to write. I teach you how to change the world with your story and make your author dreams come true.
First things first, let's talk about the brain science of the final chapter. I know what you're thinking.
Abby, does brain science even matter at this point? I've pulled my reader in, they're invested, they're going to finish reading the book.
Yes, but are you going to satisfy them with this ending? Because you know something really crucial happens after they finish reading the book. They review it and tell all their friends about it. Or they're like,
that was okay, could have been better, the ending was kind of boring, kind of fell flat, kind of disappointing. I think I'll donate it to Goodwill.
ouch! You don't want that to happen. So let's return to our psychologically proven storytelling principles that have helped us through this process so far. We have developed a deeply conflicted protagonist who is torn between their desire and fear, both of which are rooted in their fatal flaw or misbelief about the world. Throughout the course of the story so far, the protagonist has encountered obstacles and conflicts as they try to pursue their misbelief-based goal and steer clear of the thing they're afraid of. As the plot throws punches, the protagonist responds and reacts based on their inner conflict. All this goal chasing and fear avoiding eventually leads them to a climactic confrontation where they have an aha moment and realize their misbelief has been wrong this whole time. And in order to continue to the climax, they need to face their greatest fear with courage and crush their misbelief. If your story does not fall into this exact structure, don't worry, it's okay. There is no one-size-fits-all structure that works for every single story. I don't prescribe to that idea. However, I believe there is a right way to hook your reader's brain and make them care, and that secret ingredient is internal conflict. Basically, we have to know why what's happening matters to the characters specifically, or else we don't know why it matters to us. That being said, we have to make sure we keep that connection strong at the end of your book. We have to see why the events at the end of your story matter to the characters, given everything they've gone through and everything they've learned along their journey thus far. But before we get into the deeper questions about character development and all of that, you first have to ask yourself this: is this book absolutely a standalone, or is it part of a series? Even if you originally planned on this book being a standalone, I want you to seriously consider the potential of making it part of a series. Sometimes you don't know until you're deep into the drafting process and you realize you have more stories in you for these characters. Writing the final chapter will look very different depending on whether you are writing a standalone or a series. For example, when you are writing a standalone, you want to wrap up all loose threads, Show us how the characters have changed as a result of their journeys. Leave no questions unanswered, and maybe allude to the future or give closure with an epilogue. But when you're ending a book in a series, you want to set up the next book with an irresistible cliffhanger, wrap up loose threads for plot lines that won't be returning, resolve conflicts for the current book while setting up new conflicts for the next book, and raise the stakes and make the reader want the next book ASAP. So take a few minutes to pause and consider the possibilities with this book. If you find yourself torn between these two options and you're not sure what direction to take, I would recommend making your standalone open-ended and leaving potential for a sequel if you end up wanting to write one, or if your readers end up begging you for one. Okay, question number 2, and the most important question to ask yourself about the ending of your story: how have the characters changed as a result of their journey? You've probably heard me say this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. If your reader doesn't know how your protagonist has transformed as a result of their journey, you need to rewrite your book until they do. Your protagonist doesn't necessarily need to win the battle or save the day or be the victorious character at the end of the story, but they do have to change as a result of their journey. That's what the whole story is about. And how they overcome their biggest challenge at the climax is proof that they have changed. They have crushed their misbelief once and for all. If you don't have a clear idea of how your protagonist has changed as a result of their journey, I would recommend starting by making a list, just for your own reference, of your protagonist at the beginning versus your protagonist at the end. Write down a few bullet points on each side, so their character traits, their behaviors, and their beliefs. Some traits, such as their personality, might not change over the course of the story, and that's okay, that's perfectly fine. Their personality probably won't change that much, but their beliefs and their perspectives should change, even in a subtle way, because that's what the story is about. That's why it matters. Once you have these two lists written, you can compare them side by side and see the difference. And having these lists will help you to contrast those changes in your character and show your reader how they've transformed as a result of their journey, even in subtle ways. Question number 3, how do you want your reader to feel when they close the book? This is one of my favorite questions to ask myself because it varies so much. It will be so different from author to author and even from book to book. I would recommend starting by making a list of all the emotions you want your reader to feel when they reach that final page. Is it love, joy, amazement, sadness, triumph, surprise, shock? Try to get super specific with this list of emotions. Then ask yourself, what kind of scene would evoke these emotions for you as a reader? If you want to feel love and joy and forgiveness, maybe you need a heartfelt reconciliation between two characters who have been at odds throughout the course of the story. Or if you want to feel shock and surprise, maybe you need to end with a big reveal of a secret that's been buried up until this moment, and suddenly the truth comes out and it changes everything. Use your existing plot and characters as a framework to guide you, but I encourage you to listen to your heart and see where your creative imagination takes you, where your feelings and your emotions want you to go. Sometimes the ending scene that you originally had in mind just isn't triggering the emotions that you want your reader to feel on the final page, and it's time to go back to the drawing board and come up with a different ending scene. Remember, the feeling you leave your reader with on the final page is the feeling they take with them when they go to review your book. Keep that in mind as you are figuring out your intention with the emotions in that final scene. Question number 4, what themes or ideas do you want your reader to think about long after they finish the book? Like the emotions that you leave your reader with, you also have a unique opportunity to leave your reader with some big ideas as well. The themes of your story should resurface at the end as we see these character arcs come full circle and we kind of draw back to see the big picture and see why it matters. Now, the themes are something that you probably worked out before you even started writing the book. You probably did this in the outlining process, but I urge you not to go back and look at that. Don't, because It may have evolved and changed over time, and that's okay because it's what your heart needed to say. So from your perspective right now, I want you to make a list of all the questions and thoughts that you can imagine your reader pondering after they close the book. Pro tip, you can use this list as book club discussion prompts. And question number 5, if writing a series, how can you make the ending of this book work as the inciting incident for the next book? I know when we're writing a series, we all want to write that juicy cliffhanger that leaves your reader jaw dropped and desperate for the next installment. But be careful with cliffhangers, okay? It's so easy to shove your characters into some scary, precarious life or death scenario and then drop the curtain and be like,
Ha! Now you have to wait to see if they make it out alive.
There are some cases where nail-biting cliffhangers do work at the end of a book, but I would urge you to ask yourself, not so much, how do I make this exciting, but how can I make this final moment the springboard or inciting incident for the next book? A good cliffhanger introduces a new conflict and raises the stakes, setting up an even bigger problem that we know the characters are going to have to face head-on in the next book. That's what makes us hungry to read more as soon as possible. Not because we need to know if the characters are going to survive, but because we need to know how they're going to navigate this new conflict and how they're going to overcome the next impossible challenge. It's not just about what's happening, it's about who it's happening to and what it means to them. Now, if you're like,
Abby, that's all fine and good. That's great, but I'm still struggling. I need ideas. I don't know how this story's gonna end.
I feel your pain, okay? And I realize this is a huge topic and it's worth diving in deeper. That's why this weekend I am hosting a special live training all about writing the final chapter. In this training, we are going to explore 10 unforgettable ways to end your story, from the surprise twist, to the cliffhanger, to the tragedy, to the happily ever after, and much, much more. So if you're struggling to come up with that brilliant ending scene that's going to keep your readers up until 4 o'clock in the morning turning pages because they just cannot wait to see how it ends, this training is for you. We're going to unpack the many possibilities for your story's ending, whether you are writing a sweet rom-com or a spine-chilling thriller or an epic fantasy adventure. I'll be sharing ideas, valuable prompts, and tons of story examples so that you can better visualize what these ending scenes may look like for your book. So if you want to be a part of this in-depth live brainstorming session with me, click the link below this video to save your spot at the live training. It's happening Sunday, March 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you can't make it to the live stream, don't worry, you will still have access to watch the replay as many times as you want. Also, when you get the live training pass to watch this event, you also get access to my entire archive of previous live trainings, exploring topics like character building, subplots, writing the first chapter, plotting your novel, and so much more. So click the link below this video to save your spot at this new live training and get all the benefits of being inside the live training pass on my Patreon. I can't wait to see you this Sunday. It's going to be awesome. Until then, comment below and tell me, what is your favorite story ending of all time? And what do you think made it so unforgettable? In fact, that's a great question to ask yourself. You could learn so much just by analyzing the answer to that question. Smash that like button if you liked this video, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I post writing videos every single Wednesday, and I would love to have you here in the community. Don't forget to click the link below this video to save your spot at the live training, and I will see you there this weekend. Until then, my friend, rock on. Shh.